the social media post I do today matters today, and then it doesn't really matter that much tomorrow. Unless I'm trying to go viral, but I'm not. That's not our intentions. So it's that old chestnut of today matters, but it really only matters as much as what you do tomorrow and what you did yesterday, and everything matters when it's connected more.
Messy action is one of the things that just is never not going on. We're never not doing that. And to be completely transparent, and I'm not just saying this, I think we've actually sucked at quite a few things. But we've done messy action so well.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode number 1688, What Are You Not Willing to Do to Succeed? Today, for episode number 1689, You Can't Learn How to Swim on YouTube. I remember when I was, 26 maybe? 25, 26, I was going to go snowboarding for the first time ever. And I remember I was on the road. This was during my travel days for my job. I remember I was sitting in a hotel, either before work or after work, and I YouTubed how to snowboard. How to snowboard.
Nice.
And I remember thinking, this is cool. This is good. Okay, put your pressure on your toes. Put your pressure on your heels. Okay, let me stand up and, yeah, I can feel that. All right, cool. I can feel that. That makes sense. What was the other one? There was a bunch, right? There's a bunch of getting off the chairlift. That is a whole experience. How do I do that? Well, you have what do you have? Your front foot. Is your front foot clipped in the whole time? I haven't been in. Yeah, so your front foot's clipped in, and you throw
So if you're goofy, your right foot
Goofy is opposite, right?
The opposite, yeah.
Opposite.
So if you snowboard regular, your left foot is forward. If you snowboard goofy like I do, then your right foot is forward.
So you have one foot that stays in the bindings at all times, and then the other one is just kind of hanging loose. That's how you kind of maneuver around the chairlift. And when you get off the chairlift, you got to throw that bad Larry back against your binding, and then you just got to hopefully ride off into the sunset. But a lot of people, they eat
Not
crap
great
when
for your ankle on that chairlift, man.
Yeah, no. But getting off the chairlift I was like, there's no way. How am I going to do this? This looks... Why do they have videos on that? This must mean something. It must mean something that they have a dedicated video on how to get off the chairlift. That must mean this is harder than I think it's going to be. So I watched a bunch of videos. I played with my feet and said, all right, heels, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe. Awesome. And then I went snowboarding for the first time. And I don't think it helped me at all. I don't think those YouTube videos helped me at all when it came to the physical realm. I think it helped me understand things. I think it helped prepare me in some way, shape, or form. But I pointed my board down the mountain, and I started moving, and then I figured it out as I went. And by the end of the first day, I was just as good as my partner at the time. So I learned how to snowboard pretty quickly. And then you kind of have to relearn every year because you take a year off and you go twice, so that is a whole thing. But the reason I wanted to do this episode is I was very afraid of judgment when I went to the mountain. I was super nervous that I was going to fall a million times or I was going to have to walk down the mountain. And I believe that messy action is one of the kryptonites to someone like me who deals with fear of judgment. Because here's the interesting thing. If you're doing something for the first time and you're not doing it with a bunch of people who are also doing it for the first time, you most likely are going to be afraid of judgment. But imagine if you went and learned how to swim or snowboard or ride a bike or whatever, sew, paint, whatever, with 15 of your friends who had never done it. It would probably be a really good time because you all would not know what you're doing and you would connect and you would bond on that. So I think messy action and fear of judgment are like oil and water. And I think that's why that's one of the big reasons it's so hard to build momentum or to get to a new level, to the next level, because if we're afraid of judgment, we're going to wait for the perfect action, and there's never going to be a perfect action. And the beautiful side of things is messy action is going to give you lessons that you could never get from a YouTube video. You kind of got to experience it. At least that's me. I do really well with experiences. I like to physically do something. That's the best way I learn. So I thought it would be a unique, interesting place to start an episode.
I was thinking while you were talking about what I wanted to share, and the experiential learning is where most of the learning takes place. The point of studying when you go to school, so I remember you had theory, you had class, and then you had lab. And in class, you'd learn about computer engineering, and then in lab, you'd actually code a real program. And it was always in lab that was harder, and at least for me. And you'd learn a lot more. And then it would be like, oh, that's why they taught us that in the book. And so I think it needs to be both. I do. You can't just study books. You won't get anywhere. I know people who... So Kev, I'll use you as an example. I have some people in my life that I've coached in the past that they've read, I don't know, 100 books a year, every year for 3 or 4 years. But I would consider you more successful than them in pretty much every regard. They're smarter than you, quote unquote, when it comes to like knowledge. But knowledge is only a small part of the equation. And so I think we're all on one end of this spectrum or the other. I think some people, you tend to be all experiential learning. So you would just, it's interesting that you were watching YouTube videos on how to snowboard. I think that was probably more anxiety based than it was
I would say
desire to learn. Okay.
Yeah, I would say so.
But Kev jokes about how now he's read, we actually calculated it yesterday, 83 plus 51. So you've read like
144.
134.
134. No, 144.
Yeah,
I don't know.
144.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 134.
144.
No, 134.
So you've read 144 books at this stage.
No, 34. It's 134.
134 books at this stage.
Yeah.
83 and 51? Yeah. 20 plus, yeah. 134. Correct. Strong work. Okay. So 134 books. And so you're 134 books more intelligent. But that doesn't mean you're 134 books better at anything.
Right.
That's the thing that I really hope lands for everybody. You have to understand how you work, how other people work, how the world works, why it all works that way in order to make good choices. But you still have to make the choices. And so you can't learn how to snowboard by watching YouTube videos unless you're already snowboarding. It's imagine you watch a YouTube video, then you go snowboarding. Then that night you watch another YouTube video. Then you go snowboarding the next day. Then you watch another YouTube video. And then you read a book on snowboarding. And then you also read a biography of a snowboarder so you get inspired and motivated. It's supposed to be a learning loop that is both experiential and theory. It's theory versus practice. That's what this is. It's clouds and dirt. So you can live all day in the clouds and you end up delusional, but you know a lot. Or you can live all day in the dirt and get your hands dirty. And so you know how to do a lot, but you don't necessarily know the bigger picture. It's the forest and the trees thing.
You got to feel it. There's certain things you got to feel. You have to feel it. And again, maybe that's probably, I think I'm on the high end of that where I really, really need to experience something. I have changed a little bit of my strategy at jiu-jitsu because I was doing 2 classes a week that was sparring, and then I was doing 2 classes a week that are like you learn. It's just a slower pace. You learn, and then you practice it, and then you learn an evolution of that, and then you practice it, and you learn an evolution of that, and you practice it, and then by the end of the class, you kind of have a whole sequence. And I realized that me going and sparring is really good, but I learn some stuff, but I could never explain to you what I learned. I can just do it. And I think there's a very big difference between knowing something. There's a very big difference between thinking something, seeing something, knowing something, and then teaching something. And if you can teach something, that means you really know it. And I realize that I do some stuff, and I don't know why or how I do some of the stuff, and I couldn't explain it, but that's not necessarily good when it comes to fundamentals.
Yeah.
I don't know enough fundamentals where if you said, sit down and teach me these 3 things. Like, I don't know if I could teach you some things, but I don't know if I could teach you those 3.
You'll always ask me things behind the scenes like, well, how did you calculate that? And the truth is, I don't actually know. I don't have you're like, well, what's the equation that you're running? Emilia does this all the time because she really wants to learn. She doesn't like when I solve problems without her learning how I did it. or why I did it the way that I did it. So for example, we've been having Alexa issues lately, and so I bought one of the new Echo Pops. Today's episode sponsored by Echo Pop. No, it was 50% off. It was only $20. Thing's awesome. So seriously, I'm not getting any money for that, obviously, but I just love it. It's really good. So we got a new Echo Pop because our Alexas so we have a sleep playlist that we play every night during bed, and it would keep turning off. No matter, we've tried 1,000 things. I think it's software. I think we have to update the software on all of our Echo Dots. Plus, we've got automations. We've got a smart home. So we've got 4, now 5 Alexas in our house. So they are watching me. But anyways, so this morning she got a 90 sleep score. I got an 87, which is the best we've had in a long time because of this issue. It's been like a week and a half. Feels like a lot longer than that. Probably because we're not getting great sleep. But anyways, so this morning I could tell she's so pumped that it got solved, but she's irritated that she doesn't know how or why. We have no idea why. It's still her Spotify account. I think the new Echo Pop has the latest software and it isn't messing up. But my point is that every single time I'll try to teach something or I'll do something that I'm really competent in, like spreadsheets or formulas or finance or metrics or business, she'll always say, well, how did you do that? You say the same thing. Well, how did you calculate that? Or how do you know? And the truth is on the surface, I don't actually know. And this is what I do with my clients, and I'll make sure this comes full circle. I don't know why I'm out of breath this morning. But anyway, so I'll have my client, I'll close my eyes and I'll say, I have to close my eyes when I do this. I don't know why. But I need to know where you're at in terms of mathematical competence. And so I was on with one client. I did this because I need to know where their awareness is. Otherwise, I'm redundant. Like if you're a semi-pro snowboarder and I'm teaching you heel toe, this is a waste of your time and you shouldn't be paying me, right? But if you're at the beginner, I can't teach you how to do a 540, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm trying to do in coaching at all times. I need to know where someone's at. I need to know where you've been. I need to know where you are. I need to know where you're headed. I need to know what you know and what you don't know. Otherwise, I don't know what to teach you. So anyways, I close my eyes and I say, stop me when you don't understand. And so I'll do pre-algebra, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, Trigonometry, Pre-Calc, Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, Calc 4, Differential Equations, Linear Algebra, Statistics, Boolean Algebra, Discrete Mathematics. And I'll say, which of those don't you understand? And the reason why I say that is I need to know what you don't know so that I can teach you how to succeed. And that's only one modality. I mean, there's that's the math frame, but there's a bunch of others, depending on what your business is, obviously. Everyone knows their industry really well, man. Everyone knows their thing really well, but they don't know why they know it because of experiential learning. If you've been doing something for a decade, so I've been teaching Emilia fitness, bodybuilding. It's like a combination between bodybuilding, HIIT training, and cardio. And she's using this app that I've been talking about. I forget what, Fitbod, I think is what it's called. And the app uses AI to create workouts based on her goals. And I think it's great, but it also sucks compared to what I would create. But I've also been doing this for 13 years now. And so off and on for 13 years. 9, not off and on. And she'll always ask, well, why that workout? And I can't really answer because my first answer is that's optimal. Well, what do you mean? Based on your goals, based on your body comp, based on where you were, where you're headed, that's what my brain has calculated is optimal for this, but I can't explain it. And then when I unpack the formula, it's weight, it's total volume. So it's weight times reps times exercises. It's weight times reps times sets times exercises in frequency, intensity, density, duration in a short amount of time. How do you maximize total volume, total output in the shortest amount of time possible in the muscle groups that actually activate most? So she'll ask things like, well, why do we do this workout? And at first I can't answer. And then eventually I unpack it and it's like, okay. And then I finally get there of that's really the reason. But the truth is there's 50 reasons. There's 50,000 reasons. And that's why I think life is so complex. And I'm complexifying even this. The universe is based on simple fundamentals, but they're complex to understand. Like that YouTube video for YouTube probably made it sound really easy.
Yeah,
heel, toe, it's all good.
Yeah.
The simple fundamentals of snowboarding are easy. you can spend a lifetime trying to master snowboarding. And I think that's the duality we all need to hold. And to go back to the beginning of messy action, you can't master anything without messy action. You have to actually be in the ring. You have to be in the arena. You can learn about relationships all day, but if you're not in an intimate relationship, you're not getting all of the compound effect.
Well, there's a big difference between everything you need to know and everything you need to do. Everything you need to know it's an understanding, and then I think everything you need to do is a
skill.
It's a skill and it's an experience. And then then it compounds off of that. But it just takes time. The messy action is everything. Messy action is, I tell my clients that all the time. I don't care. I don't care about perfect launch. I don't care about any of that. It doesn't really matter. None of that really matters if we're not here in 6 months.
Agreed.
It's just, let's just take messy action and let's just get it out there. And here's this is the interesting thing. The amount of messy action I try to inject is directly connected to the amount of perfectionism the person has. Because if they're a perfectionist, I want more messy action. Because I know we're never going to... I had a client recently. We've been compiling episodes for months and months and months and months. And I messaged them, I emailed them and said, hey, when do we want to launch this thing? And they made a joke. They said, what do you think about April 1st? April Fool's Day. Haha. And I was like, that's when we're going to launch. We're going to launch April 1st. That's it.
Nice.
Done. We're going to launch. And I thought they were serious. So I ended up messaging them after we launched. And I needed a couple things. I said, hey, can you give me access to this and this? And they said, when are you thinking launch? And I said, oh, we're already launched. Yeah, no, we already got 3 episodes. We already got 3 episodes out there. And I said, based on the conversation we had, I thought that was the best course of action. And she said, well, I was kind of kidding, but she said, honestly, it's probably not a bad thing because who knows when we would have launched if you just didn't launch it. And but I've done this enough times to know you might not think you're ready, but you thinking about stuff that you've already done is not going to make the stuff you've already done better. It's still the same thing. You just are more comfortable with knowing that you don't know. And I know you know more than you think you do. So that's the messy action. Messy action is a superpower. If you have it, it's amazing. If you're struggling with it, it's definitely something that will be very beneficial if you can lean into more. And here's the other thing. I know some people who are really good. They are so good at messy action, they're not good at cleaning it up as they go.
Improvement, yeah.
So that's another... I'm really good at getting things started. I'm not nearly as good as Alan at improving things as I go. I'm trying to get better, and I'm trying to focus on that, but that was never my strong suit.
Hello, NLU listener. Thank you, as always, for listening to Next Level University. Real quick, I just want to jump in and let you know about the Next Level Dreamliner. This is a journal that I use every single day. Achieve your dreams 90 days at a time. It breaks down your dreams into goals, milestones, and daily habits. We hope you enjoy it. The link will be in the show notes. You've always been a strong starter. I struggled to start, but I was always good at staying consistent and improving along the way, so we're a good team with that. One thing I wanted to say while you were talking, what was it? I guess the first thing I would ask while I also think of the next thing is, why do you think you're such a strong starter? Especially as someone who fears judgment. It doesn't make any sense.
I get excited to start things. I get excited when I can take action and see progress. I like that. I enjoy that very much. I enjoy that.
Were you scared to launch the first episode of the podcast? Or were you excited?
I think I was excited. From when I went on your podcast, your YouTube channel. I can't say podcast. I got to say YouTube channel.
Okay.
When I went on your YouTube channel to when I launched the podcast was probably 2 weeks, maybe. I ordered the stuff. I think I ordered the stuff the day after we talked. And then I paid someone to make the artwork. There was no intro, outro, or anything at that point. And then I think I released the first episode a couple weeks later.
Welcome to the mother effing hyperconscious podcast.
Yeah. Who knew? I didn't know what I was doing.
I don't understand, though. If you're afraid of embarrassment, if you're afraid of judgment, rather, why are you not? I guess, why doesn't that hold you back? Like, were you embarrassed to snowboard?
Yeah, for sure. At the beginning, yeah. Because I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. I
With
knew I could.
podcasting, you knew you
Yeah,
could
I
do it.
knew I could podcast. I knew I could. I wouldn't say I knew I could do it well, but I knew I could speak into a microphone and have deep conversations. That's something I knew I could do.
Because you'd already been doing that for so long.
Yeah.
Not into a microphone, but
Yeah,
you've been
yeah.
having deep conversations your whole life. So there's something to that too.
And I don't think I really cared about listening, like anybody listening in the beginning. I wasn't tracking the numbers in the beginning. I didn't really care. I just wanted to do it. And then
I think that's the best way to start.
I think so too.
Just start out and it's all gravy. Oh, I figured out what I was going to say. I was in book club, and I don't know if this is going to land, but I want to try. I want to see if I can flip the script, because I know a lot of people don't think this way, and think differently has always been kind of my mantra ever since I was a kid. That was Apple's marketing back in the 90s, think differently. And I always thought about that. So I tried to reframe something, and I'll do this for our listeners. I was in book club, and I said, the truth of the matter is that in some ways the podcast still sucks. We just suck less than we used to. That, I think, helps me. I don't know if that's useful for anyone else, but it sets the expectation right.
Yeah. We're not finished.
It's like, yeah, we're not done.
We're not in final form.
Like, when we look back at episode 1, it wasn't good. It might have been good relative to other episode 1s. I don't know. But I don't live from the frame of, I hope this episode is world class. I live from the frame of, I'm going to do my best on this episode, and it's probably going to kind of suck, but it's definitely going to suck less than it used to.
Mm.
So my frame is twofold. It's a duality. One is, I want this episode to be better than the last episode, and better than previous episodes in general. But I think a new frame for this might be, when you start something, this was helpful for me, and I don't know if this is normal or what, but I didn't expect to be good at snowboarding right away. I expected to suck. I think everything you do when you're a beginner, even if you're the best beginner, you're still a beginner.
Yeah. You
can be the best beginner basketball player of all time, and you're still going to suck so bad compared to someone who's been playing for 10 years. And so I really like to think about that. It's like, yeah, this podcast is really valuable. I think it's actually, as far as holistic self-improvement goes, I think it's the most valuable podcast you can possibly listen to. I genuinely believe that wholeheartedly. And I've listened to many podcasts in this space. But I like the frame of, we still kind of suck. We just suck less than we used to. And next episode, we're going to suck even less. And the episode after that, we're going to suck even less. So to me, it lowers this fear of failure, because there is no failure when you already think you kind of suck.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a good perspective.
But it's also a duality, because I don't actually think we're bad. So it's like that weird mind game, kind of, if that makes sense.
I think somebody asked me on a podcast the other day, and I said, why do you expect to be good at anything in the beginning?
Yeah.
I think we want to be good, but there's a difference between desire and expectation. The desire is, I want this to happen. The expectation is, I have no proof that I'm going to be good at this, because I've never done it before. I think if you're going to learn something new, go learn it with a bunch of people who haven't done it. I think that's a really good way to learn, because you'll probably, as long as they're safe and they're people you trust, you can be vulnerable with, you'll probably fear judgment a little bit less, because you know everybody's going to kind of suck, because nobody's done it before. And to speak to the first part of that, somebody asked me the other day, they said, you guys have accomplished a lot in the podcast and the business and listens and all that happy jazz. What's left? And I said, everything is left. We've pretty much accomplished nothing. In the grand scheme of things, I know it looks like a lot, but it's just a very unique point in time where some numbers line up and they look better than they did at this point last year. We have a lot to accomplish, almost everything still. In the grand scheme of things, we've accomplished very little, but it looks really good where we are today. But it's hard to explain that.
What would you have thought back then asking us that? Like, let's say you interviewed you.
I do think we have accomplished a lot. That is my truth. I never expected to be $1 million business and 1 million listens and all that. I never expected that. Genuinely. I never expected that. But now now that I believe in what we're capable of course I believe that we're more capable than I ever thought we were.
Yeah.
So I think it is. I think it's that that juggling act of those two things. I'm very grateful, and I'm very happy with what we've done, and I feel I'm very proud of what we've done, and I'm very surprised with what we've done. But I'm less surprised now than I was at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's not, that's the hard thing, Alan. You don't go from 0 to $1 million. You go from 990,000 to $1 million. It's like, well, it's only $1 more or one listen more than 999,999, but it's a new milestone that doesn't, it's not that big of a difference from 999,999.
What would I know we gotta jump. What would we get some time. What would the version of Kev, imagine at the very beginning you had you on. So the Hyperconscious podcast, you had me as your first guest. Imagine instead of me, you had you now. What would you ask him?
I don't know, because I don't think I had enough awareness of.
Wouldn't you have thought that he was like living the dream? And
yeah, I probably would have
figured
said, "What's it like to be successful? Like, what is that like?" And I'd say,
and what would your answer be?
I'm not nearly as successful as you think I am. Not nearly.
This is the coolest thing ever for me.
Not nearly as successful as you think I am.
What else? We should do the Freestyle Friday on this. Have your past self interview your future self. That'll be the episode. That'll be fire.
What else? I don't know. I probably would have asked what have the biggest lessons been. I always liked to ask people who everybody else thought had it all figured out, what they didn't have figured out. I always enjoyed those questions.
Yeah.
And certain guests would really go, and other guests just wouldn't. And that always it made me sad, because it's like, damn, that was a really good question, and you're stonewalling me. You're not going to go there.
Yeah.
Probably that. What's something that you're surprised that you feel comfortable in that you never thought you would? What's something that you're surprised that you still don't feel comfortable in that you thought you'd overcome by now? Oh, man.
Answer younger Kevin's questions, please.
Sales. I feel very, very comfortable in sales. Quick story. I paid $1,000 to get out of a personal training job because I hated sales so much in my mid-20s. And I forgot this too.
Now you're the chief sales officer
of a
chief future
sales officer.
Successful company.
Yes. They actually cut my pay. They cut my pay because I was so bad at sales.
Kevin's the chief sales officer of $1 million business.
That's wild.
Younger Kev would be like, "Whoa,
for sure.
You hate sales." You know, it's funny.
That would be that's the surprising one. I think the one that I haven't overcome that I thought I would is probably imposter syndrome. I don't know. We were talking about that yesterday. I don't think I'll ever overcome that, because I'm really always living outside of what I'm capable of. I'm always everything is kind of evolving faster than I am, which I don't think is a bad thing. But I do think I will be in a perpetual state of imposter syndrome for most of my life. But I feel very used to that, and I feel like I know how to deal with it. So I guess that's a unique strength now.
How much messy action have you taken over the last 7 years?
Oh, man.
Everything?
I would say, yeah, probably every day. Probably every day. Yeah. Yeah, I think...
It's the unsung hero, man. We don't talk about it anymore. We used to talk about fail forward all the time.
I know.
Way back in the day, we talked about failing forward all the time. And you used to say how you never understood that or like fully understood or embraced fail forward until you and I met.
Yeah.
And you used to talk about just fail forward, put in the reps. Remember we used to always say that? Just put in the reps. Just put in the reps.
We were talking yesterday. We were preparing for group coaching, which is... It's yesterday if you're listening to this on Wednesday. It was last night. And I said, isn't it... It's interesting how every single group coaching session is a game, but it's also practice. It's a game because we're trying to give it everything we got, and we're trying to make it as valuable as possible. But it's practice because by the time we do this again next time, we're going to change so much.
Yep.
So almost every time we're doing... Some of the material is similar, but we try to change the stories, and then the frameworks change, and the graphics change, and the order changes, and everything, the questions change.
The fonts.
Yeah. It's always
the whole layout.
It's always a game, but it's always a practice at the same time. And I think that's really what messy action is the social media post I do today matters today, and then it doesn't really matter that much tomorrow. unless I'm trying to go viral, but I'm not. That's not our intentions. So it's that old chestnut of today matters, but it really only matters as much as what you do tomorrow and what you did yesterday, and everything matters when it's connected more.
That's why I think. What'd you say?
I was going to say that would be my final thought on that.
The last thing I'll share is I'm always trying to share the unsung heroes that we used to say this back in the hyperconscious days. Let's pull back the curtain on what it really took to succeed. And instead of that same verbiage, you have the tip of the iceberg and you have the results that you see on the outside. And then beneath that, you have all of the beliefs, values, understandings, awareness, actions, habits, mastery, all these things underneath it. And I'm always trying to unpack and bring to the surface the things that are way underneath the iceberg. And when it comes to you and I's trajectory and what we're trying to impart with all the listeners is messy action is one of the things that just is never not going on. We're never not doing that. And to be completely transparent, and I'm not just saying this, I think we've actually sucked at quite a few things. But we've done messy action so well. And if we didn't, messy action plus improvement. If you just messy action, you won't get any better. So you need the second piece. And trust me, we've done a lot of messy action without improvement too. Our YouTube channel for a hot minute there was not good at all. And so you got to reallocate your efforts and stuff. But at the end of the day, put in the reps. You're never going to have a perfect training program. You're never going to have a perfect coaching program. You're never going to have a perfect relationship. You're never going to have a perfect home. You're never going to have a perfect anything. Perfection is not real. It's so useless. It's a useless idea even. And so if you can we don't want to look bad. We want to look good. I was thinking about this earlier. People don't want to take status hits, but because of that, they end up less than they could be.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, if you're going to embark on any new journey to the next level, you're going to take a status hit at this level. You know how many L's I've taken giving speeches that were beyond my capabilities? I mean, and if I didn't do that, we just wouldn't have gotten here. And I just don't know any other way other than just bite the bullet and have the courage to look. If you don't have the courage to look like a failure, you will be one. That's the hard truth.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes on this is, for every public success you see, there are 1,000 failures behind the scenes that nobody ever does. And it depends. It depends on the number. It might be 100, it might be 1,000, it might be 1,000,000, who knows? I don't know what the exact ratio between failures to success is, but it's always a good lesson. It's always a good lesson. And even some days we get off these mics and we say, that was not that great. That episode was not that great. We still have those moments. Speeches, we have those moments. Group coaching, we have those moments where we get off and say, what do we think? 7 out of 10. Here's what went well. Here's what we need to improve. All right, cool. And that'll happen forever. Very rarely is there a 10 out of 10. I don't even think we give 10s out of 10. 9s out of 10 happen, but it's not a 9. It was perfect. It's a 9, and here's what we could do to make it a 9.1. Forever and ever. Next Level Nation, tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have our, what month is it? 34. Month 34 of our Next Level monthly meetup. We're talking about how to level up your wealth. It is totally private. We don't record it. We don't put it anywhere. It is a Zoom meeting behind the scenes where we go deep on a topic with the ultimate goal of adding as much value as possible. Will we make mistakes? Absolutely. But you will be there to make those mistakes together with us. So we'll have the link in the show notes. That's tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're looking for a group of people who are like you, they're into growth, they're working on themselves, they're trying to figure out their ego, they're trying to be more confident, whatever it is, set boundaries.
I screwed up.
What do you got?
That was Relationship Talks events.
Oh, my goodness.
34. So this meetup will be number 29. My apologies.
29. Out here, Jeffin.
I had to check because I knew something was off.
You're good. If you're looking for a group, Next Level Nation is a free Facebook group where you can get to the next level in that way too. So we'll have that link in the show notes. Tomorrow for episode number 1690, we're creeping up on 1700. One relationship red flag to avoid. I'm going in on tomorrow's episode, and I'm very, very excited to do that episode. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Talk to you soon. Next Level Nation.